Hey everyone, this is Stefan James from Project Life Mastery. Today I want to share with you one of the most powerful self-development experiences that I've ever been through in my life, and how I was able to biohack anywhere from 21 to 40 years of Zen meditation in only 7 days. And I did this by doing 7 days of intense neurofeedback alpha brainwave training at the Biocybernaut Institute in Sedona, Arizona. Now, if you're not familiar with what neurofeedback training is and the different brainwave states, then I'll do the best I can in this video to explain that to you. But I really want to share with you this powerful experience that I had at the Biocybernaut Institute and some of the incredible benefits that I've received. Tatiana went with me. She got some incredible benefits, but also the incredible life-changing benefits of so many people that have gone through this training. But the science and the studies and the research that they've been conducting over the last 40 years through this with Dr. James Hart, who's the founder of the Biocybernaut Institute and one of the leaders of neurofeedback. And I'm going to link below in the description of this video to their website, which is www.biocybernaut.com. On their website, they've got their studies and publications. But also I'll share a few great YouTube videos of Dr. Hart where he presents a lot of his 40 years of research based on the Alpha 1 training at the Biocybernaut Institute. So if you're curious to learn more about it, he can do a better job of explaining it than I can, but I want to share with you my raw and real experience and the benefits about it, and try to simplify it as much as I can so that you guys can understand it. Now, most of you guys know over the last 17 plus years of my life, I've been pretty obsessive about self-development, doing almost everything I can get my hands on that can enhance the quality of my life or upgrade myself. I'm open to everything, attached to nothing, so I don't believe that we know enough to be a pessimist. And so anything that can enhance my life, I will do. And if I benefit from it, my mission is to share that with you guys here at Project Life Mastery. That's what I do here on Project Life Mastery. And so out of everything I've done over the last 17 years, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars now into my self-development, going to seminars and courses and retreats and hiring coaches and mentors and consultants and reading hundreds of books and taking advantage of almost every type of biohacking equipment or technology that I can get my hands on, to using psychedelic drugs like ayahuasca. Out of everything that I've done, I can confidently say that the Biocybernaut Institute is the most powerful thing that I've done. And that's saying a lot. And I discovered the Biocybernaut Institute a few years ago by a few friends of mine that are also pretty obsessive and crazy like myself with their personal development and raising their consciousness as a human being. And they swore by it and shared how powerful it was for them. And I've got friends that have done it multiple times as well to continue to get gains from it. And I'll describe more some of the gains that you can get from this. But also Tony Robbins, my mentor and someone I've looked up to for the last 17 years, has done it and shared how it was the most powerful experience of his life. And many others as well. Many other people in the biohacking community like Dave Asprey and he's the founder of Bulletproof. Some billionaires and top performers and athletes and things of that nature have gone through this experience. And so it was always on my bucket list as something I wanted to do, and just hadn't gotten around to doing it, and finally did in Sedona, Arizona. And it was incredible. So I'm going to share as much as I can with you guys, but let me share a few of the benefits that you can learn more about the science of on their websites. But people that have gone through this experience in 7 days, one of the studies that Dr. Hart did is he had everybody that, before they went through the training, do an IQ test, a 4-hour IQ test of the Kaufman Adolescence and Adult Intelligence Test. And then 7 days after the training, had them go through the same IQ test for 4 hours, and found that it increased their IQ on average by 11.7 points. Did another test 12 months out and found that the results were stable from that study. Also, you do an EQ test, an emotional intelligence test based on the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And there's a 15.8 point EQ increase after the 7-day training. There's a 50% increase in your creativity. And we'll go into why that is, and it has to do with your alpha brainwave state and how that increases your creativity levels. Increase of a flow state of peak performance. So if you've ever been in that flow state where just time disappears and you just get so immersed in something. Less anxiety, calmer mind, more compassion, really greater awareness and consciousness. If I were to summarize what this training does. There's a lot of incredible benefits, but really what this is doing is it's raising human consciousness. You know, Einstein said that you can't solve a problem with the same level of awareness that created it. And as you become more aware, as you become more conscious, you have different insights in yourself. Problems disappear, but you look at things from a meta perspective is the way that I look at higher states of consciousness. And it compares to using psychedelic drugs like ayahuasca, things like that, which can really bring you to a higher level of awareness of just oneness. And it's a little bit hard to describe unless you've maybe experienced it. But in Zen meditation, they call that satori. And in yoga, they call it samadhi. It's the highest state of enlightenment where you just feel bliss and oneness and connection with all. So that's kind of how I'd summarize it, which is pretty profound. Now, let me describe to you what neurofeedback is and the different brainwave states. So there's 5 different brainwave states that we all experience. And the first one is a delta brainwave state. The second one is theta. The next one is alpha, and then there's beta, and then there's gamma. So delta brainwave state is when you're in a deep sleep. It's a state of healing and a restorative sleep. So when you're in a very deep sleep, your brain waves, they slow down, and that's delta. And then theta is when you're still asleep, but you're having dreams. You have a little bit higher level of consciousness. You're asleep, but you're having dreams, maybe lucid dreams, or it's a very, very deep state of meditation. Alpha brainwave state is you're more alert, but very relaxed. You have expanded awareness. You have higher creativity. Often when you have really great ideas, you're in an alpha state. And then beta is when you're awake, you're alert. Often most of us, when we're, throughout the day, we're in a beta state. There's a lot of thinking, a lot of rumination. There's oftentimes a lot of stress and anxiety that is the byproduct of compulsive thinking and being in a beta state. And then the last one is gamma. And gamma is when you're intensely focused on something. And so we go through all these different brainwave states, but what Dr. James Hart has discovered is that when he studied Zen meditators, so he's gone to India, he's gone all around the world, and you can measure your brain waves, by the way, by attaching electrodes to different parts of the brain and then reading it on an EEG. And so you're able to read and see what the brainwave states are and what you're experiencing. And your brain emits these electrical pulses where the neurons communicate with one another. And every experience, every thought, every emotion that we have, we experience in a certain brainwave state. And so Dr. Hart, he's gone to, different parts of the world, and he's actually attached an EEG and the electrodes to advanced Zen meditators, people that have been meditating. To be an advanced Zen meditator, you have to meditate for at least 21 to 40 years. And he found that people that have been meditating for that long, they have very high levels of alpha brain waves, and there's a certain pattern that's consistent. And he found that he was able to recreate that same level of alpha, that pattern of alpha of someone that's been meditating for 21 to 40 years with his neurofeedback training at the Biocybernaut Institute. So it's pretty powerful. And what he also discovered as well is that most of us, all of us, we have trauma, we have pain that we've experienced in our lifetime. Most of us, we have things that have affected us in our life that there's still a charge. There's still an emotional charge that's still there. In fact, what he has found is that trauma suppresses our alpha levels. And so most of us, if you've ever been through a traumatic experience, or even just being bullied, or someone saying something negative to you, or frustration or anger or whatever it might be, oftentimes we might think that it doesn't affect us, but often it still does on a subconscious level. Often it's swept under the rug, and we suppress those things. And suppressed pain and trauma actually suppresses our alpha levels as well, and really affects us. And at the Biocybernaut Institute, there's a forgiveness component of it, where there's a 14-step forgiveness process that helps to release a lot of the subconscious traumas that we have. And the only way you can really do it is by being in a high state of alpha. So this is how neurofeedback works. Let me try to explain this to you so it all kind of comes together. At the Biocybernaut Institute, you're training for 10 to 14 hours a day for 7 days. It's really intense. And what they do is they attach these gold-plated electrodes to different parts of your brain so that they can read to see where your alpha is coming from and to what degree. So oftentimes, most of the alpha comes from our occipitals, the back of our head. but also comes to the centrals and the frontals. And so they're able to measure that. And so they attach this to you, and then they put you in this chamber, the soundproof chamber, which is where you're spending the majority of your time. And you're sitting there, and there's speakers around you in the soundproof chamber. There's a computer in front of you. And what they're essentially doing, what neurofeedback is when your alpha goes up, based on the scans that they're doing with the EEG, when your alpha goes up, inside this chamber, it starts playing these sounds, these tones, kind of like a flute or a cello. And based on where the alpha is being increased by different parts of the brain, you'll hear a different tone. And as you're hearing your brain waves, as your brain is hearing it, your brain is being rewarded by it. It's like a reinforcement mechanism. And so your brain starts producing more alpha. And that's how neurofeedback essentially works. You're getting the feedback of your brain waves, because for the most part, most people, we experience these different brain waves, but we're not measuring it, and you don't get the direct feedback to be able to hear when it's going up or when it's going down. So when your alpha goes up, you hear the sounds in the room, which reinforces it. So your brain starts producing more alpha, and you break past plateaus of experiencing even higher states of alpha. And then there's certain things you learn that suppress your alpha as well. And what they've found is that a higher level of alpha reduces anxiety and stress and worry and anger and a lot of these negative emotional states that a lot of people experience day to day. It helps to calm your mind. Just as someone that meditates for up to 40 years, they have a very calm mind because they have higher states of alpha. And so part of the experience is you're doing this for 10 to 14 hours a day. And so your brain is training itself by hearing the feedback of its brain waves, of its alpha, and it's releasing more. So you increase your alpha, and it's being increased in different parts of your brain. And so for me, at the experience, primarily in my occipitals, I think it was the left side of my occipital was producing the highest level of alpha, and I was able to increase it more in the frontals and the centrals, but also in the occipitals as well, but also make it more rapid. So it was more experiencing alpha at a much higher pace, which is pretty cool. Now, a big part of the event and the experience is the forgiveness component, because trauma, like I said, and pain suppresses your alpha. So at the event, what you're doing, this is so brilliant how Dr. Hart created this, is anything that creates pain within us is going to suppress our alpha. And so the way that his technology works is it's the ultimate truth teller, because what you'll do, you'll be in this chamber and you'll think of something that might have been a painful moment from your past. So maybe, for example, you might think of getting bullied when you were a kid. And you might say, that doesn't bother me anymore. That was 20 years ago. But what happens is, as you start thinking about it with your eyes closed, the EEG is reading to see whether or not that event is suppressing your alpha or increasing your alpha. And so you might say that something's not bothering you, but if it suppresses your alpha, then it is. You still have subconscious pain or trauma that's not yet been resolved. And so part of the process is this forgiveness, where what you do, and I won't reveal the whole thing, you'll have to go through the event to experience it, but you first test to see whether or not there's a charge there. So you test to see whether or not there's any pain that you might still have that's been swept under the rug with a certain event or experience in your life. And then you test to see if it suppresses your alpha. If it does, you go through this forgiveness where you start to forgive that person by walking in their shoes and have compassion for them to understand their perspective and their, why they did what they did, why that person might have bullied you, and, how they were unconscious, or they were more in a selfish mode, or they felt insecure, or they were bullied when they were a kid. And that gets you out of your perspective and at a higher state of awareness, a higher state of consciousness, where you're now looking at something from someone else's perspective, which allows you to have compassion for that person. And then you start finding the gifts. You find the gifts in that experience to find all the incredible benefits from that. By you being bullied when you were a kid, it's made you a more sensitive person today, and now you treat other people a lot better. That's an incredible gift. Or it's allowed you to cultivate more of a feminine side, a more sense of caring and compassion because of the pain that you went through. Or maybe a gift is that it helps you to help your kids one day when they go to school, and you can be more aware now of, how to deal with bullies, or your son or daughter going through an experience like that. And that's a great gift that you can then help them. So all these gifts that you find, and as you go through this forgiveness, you're raising your alpha. And as your alpha raises, you're neutralizing that charge. And then what happens is when you go back to that experience of getting bullied, you visualize it, you go back to, imagine it, you can see whether or not it worked or not if you actually forgave and healed that based on seeing whether or not your alpha gets suppressed or whether it goes up. If it's no longer suppressed, then you resolved some trauma in the subconscious mind. So, and the other part of it too, you're not just hearing the sounds, but you're actually seeing scores on the screen in front of you. After every 2 minutes, you're seeing a score to see whether your alpha went up or whether it went down. So it might be hard to explain and for you to understand this, but it's the ultimate truth teller, because all of these things that we think that we've forgiven or let go of or that's no longer affecting us, you might consciously have forgiven or released trauma or pain, but on this subconscious mind, if it's still affecting us, then that's unfinished. We still have to resolve that, and it actually suppresses our alpha day to day. It affects the quality of our life. And when you release a lot of those traumas, you're doing this for 7 days of forgiveness, it's amazing how your alpha increases from that point forward. So that is one of the most powerful things. And when I went to it, I was like, 7 days of forgiveness, I don't have, much to forgive. And you realize you have a whole list day after day of things to forgive, a lot that you have to forgive for yourself. For you feeling like you're not worthy, or for me, I remember just being so hard on myself and forgiving myself for that, or forgiving myself for having a certain addiction, or for being selfish or doing something stupid at one stage of my life, or for bullying someone else or being negative to someone else or hurting this person in my life. All this forgiveness work that we need to resolve within ourselves, you're doing it through this experience, and you're actually measuring to see whether or not it's actually affecting you, and if you actually did in fact release it. You're doing that, but you're also doing it for other people in your life, your siblings, your parents, your significant other, your kids, strangers, your business, coworkers, everything. And what I found is after this event, some of the benefits that I got just from that is when I go back to my day-to-day life, I noticed that a lot of these things that affected me no longer affect me. It's just kind of like what happened, or it is what it is, but there's no charge associated with it. So for example, I remember there are certain things in my business that would create some anxiety for me. So, if I opened my computer and go to my inbox and I see a million emails, I'd feel a little bit of anxiousness and I get some frustration with that. And what I found after the event is I did some work to let go of that, to forgive that now there's just no charge. Now it's just like, there's a state of calmness and peace of mind, and I don't know how to describe it, but it's just a calmness where you've let go of these things that have been affecting you for so long. So that was probably one of the most powerful parts of the event and the experience for me. And on top of it, when you're experiencing these high states of alpha, I had some pretty profound moments that are similar to a psychedelic of seeing my whole life ahead of me and even beyond my life. Some intense visions of after I'm gone, what my legacy is going to be and what kind of impact I'm going to make. I was able to see what kind of impact my work is going to make beyond my lifetime. I was able to see the family legacy that I'm going to create with my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids, and just for hundreds of years beyond my life. I was able to see what I'm going to be able to contribute beyond my lifetime with my wealth, and having that in a trust and having that grow over hundreds of years and have that be distributed to different organizations and charities and different causes. So even though I'm not here, my legacy and the impact that I'm going to create is beyond my lifetime. It just allowed me to access such a high level of awareness that was beyond my life, that was beyond, not unless you've done deep meditation or psychedelics or experienced a samadhi or satori experience. It's really hard to explain what kind of experiences that I had during that time, but it's pretty profound. It's pretty incredible. So there's so much more that I can share about this, but I'll link to their website, biocybernaut.com, if you want to learn more. For me, I want to see how the benefits affect me over the next several months and years as well, because the difference between this sort of training and a lot of seminars you go to, I've been to so many different seminars, you get a lot of great information, take a lot of notes, but then you have to apply it. And maybe at the event, you're shifting beliefs and making different distinctions that can have a permanent and a lasting effect. But for the most part, you have to apply what you've learned. And the thing that's different and unique about this there's no like, you're not taking notes, you're not trying to learn something, you're doing this training that has having a permanent effect on you. So it's kind of there's like a passive component to it. And from everyone that I talked to that have done it, because I messaged a few of my friends, we talked afterwards, I've got a few friends that have done it a few times, that said the benefits increase over the next 6 to 9 months. And you can actually go back and do even deeper trainings, because I have a friend that's done it 6 or 7 times. Every time he goes, he gets a 10 to 20% return on it. His level of creativity continues to increase, because when you do something, the benefits that you get, you notice the benefits for a period of time, but the reason why you stop noticing something is that you normalize to it. It just becomes like the norm. Like, oh yeah, my IQ's higher, my EQ's higher, I have more compassion, higher awareness and whatnot. So you normalize to that. And it's stable that when you go back to the training a year later, your brain waves, your alpha is still the same. The only thing that can really suppress it after the work that you've done is deep trauma. And there's actually things like caffeine and alcohol and actually onions and garlic that suppress your alpha for 24 hours as well, which was pretty surprising to learn about as well. So I'm excited to go back. They have an alpha 2 training and 3. And as the deeper that you go, you're more targeting certain parts of the brain. And so if I go back to do the alpha 2 training, I can actually, if I want to, just target, let's say, the frontals. And if I really want to bring up my alpha and my frontals, then I'll only hear the tones and sounds when the alpha goes up in my frontals, versus the alpha 1, you have your occipitals and your centrals in different parts. And so you're hearing the different tones. And so everything is being increased, but you can target specific regions of the brain if you want to, increase the alpha in those levels as well. And they also have a theta training as well, where you can train your theta brain waves, which is, kind of associated with having these visions that come to you and manifestations and whatnot too, which is pretty powerful as well. So hopefully I did a good job of explaining it to you. There's a lot, and I would recommend, if you want to dive deeper into this, you can check out their website. They have their pricing and testimonials, the science, all of that there. And I will mention that this is not for everybody, because it is a very expensive event compared to many other things out there. So for example, it does start at $15,000 to do this. So I understand for everybody that's watching this or listening to this, that might be out of your price range. For me personally, I'm invested so much money at this point into my development, and I've done really well that the returns that I can get on something like this, I mean, if it increases my IQ, my creativity, my emotional intelligence, and it more importantly relieves pain and helps me experience more joy and more happiness and a calmer mind, I don't want to go through 21 to 40 years of meditation. If I can biohack that, if I can accelerate that, then obviously, $15,000 is a bargain in comparison to having to spend that amount of time meditating, or, the gains that I'll get in my business, the return on it is going to be quite profound. So for me, someone like myself, it's incredibly worth it. And for someone, if you're watching this and you're into self-development and you've gone, pretty extreme like myself, then this might be something powerful for you. Or if you've got a business and you already have a level of success, if you're a leader, this is something that can take you to the next level. Because oftentimes, all types of people do this event, but usually, people that are committed to biohacking, and people that are CEOs or business owners, people like that, those are the people that are the most attracted to doing something like this, because the investment that you make is a no-brainer for the return that you're going to get. Because ultimately, your success is determined by who? You are the ultimate resource that determines your success in life. And for me, the success is not even the biggest benefit of making more money that I'm going to get from this, but it's very difficult to put a price on peace of mind and calmness and more joy and more compassion and higher states of consciousness. You can't put a price on that. So for me, it was an easy investment, and I can't wait to go back to do more. So thought I'd share it with you guys. If you can't do it yet, add it to your bucket list. Work hard in your life. I think that's one of the greatest benefits of doing well in your life. That for me, success has opened up the doors for me to be able to make some incredible investments, to take advantage of the technology that's available. I feel so grateful for Dr. Hart and people out there that have spent their life to create a technology that other people can benefit from. And, this is his life's work, and a lot of, money has gone into it, and the equipment and everything that he has. And so it is a sizable investment, but, make it your goal to be there, and you will, and you can benefit from it. So I'll share with you guys more in the next couple months, some of the benefits I get from it, and I'll probably do another training, and once I do, I'll share that with you guys as well. So check out biocybernaut.com. Hopefully you guys enjoyed learning about this. If you did enjoy it, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe here at Project Life Mastery for more videos on personal development and business and success. Thank you guys so much. I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Take care.